So we are here to specifically speak to Sabasaba. That is on Monday, 7th. We'd love to talk about Sabasaba and specifically speak to the president. This is directly speaking to the president. We would love him to actually take up the prerogative of leadership and be the leader he is. He is the leader of this nation, and there are a few things that he actually needs to do. So we will be, this particular presser is to address the president directly and also prepare for Monday. So, Your Excellency, Kenya is burning. The country for which our forefathers shed their blood is sliding into anarchy, and this is happening under your watch. The dreams of generations and the lofty promises enshrined in our constitutions in our constitution are fading from the daily realities of ordinary citizens. As head of state and the symbol of national unity, it is time to demonstrate courageous leadership and steer our nation back toward justice, peace, and prosperity. In 6 days, Kenya will commemorate the 25th, or rather 25 years, since citizens took to the streets on 7th July 1990 to demand for multi-party democracy. This year's Sabasaba anniversary comes amid rising unrest fueled by governance failures, widespread youth unemployment, gross human violations. The National Alternative Alliance Rise to Youth asked the president to highlight the grievances of Kenyans and propose urgent measures to prevent further national crisis. The president spoke to us and the other day and said that he does not get what we are saying. We would love just to highlight, because we know that this is not breaking news to him. He knows it. So, but for purposes of responding to what he said and preparing for 7th, we would love to remind him and also propose some things, low-lying fruits that he can do to stem the slide into anarchy. So, unless deliberate efforts are made to de-escalate the growing tensions, our country risks plunging into chaos. To whom much is given, much is expected. As the leader of this nation, you must act decisively to calm the situation and create an environment for genuine dialogue and national healing. Your administration should immediately cease abductions and extrajudicial killings and withdraw all charges against activists and citizens arrested just for exercising their constitutional rights under Article 37. You need to release all those activists unconditionally. It is imperative to compensate all families of those killed and those injured during the demonstrations last year and even this year. It's also not just enough to announce that they have waived hospital and mortuary fees for the dead and those who are injured. It's important that that works out clearly. Further, the government must restrain provocative and inflammatory statements by officials and apprehend and interdict the police, government, and political actors implicated in violence against demonstrators. It's important to actually emphasize this point, that you saw the other day the media clearly outlined plans to disrupt demonstrations violently, getting communication and everything. There has not been arrest on that. So we call on the president to ensure that even those UDA employees who are planning to disrupt the demonstrations are arrested. The police who actually have broken the law are also interdicted. And any other government official, be they those that are funding it, those that are supporting it, and those that are making inflammatory reports in so many places. This, we believe, is actually him creating goodwill so that then he can thaw the feelings and ensure that then we can talk to each other. Because as it is at the moment, his side is doubling down and the people are simply acting according to the constitution. Equally, it's important to mention this, that it's important for the president. We are asking him to depoliticize security agencies and to stop weaponizing the criminal justice system against dissent. In addition, the leaders of majority in both the Senate and the National Assembly should be directed at least to move a motion so that Parliament establishes a special committee to examine the Genz protests, because until now that has not been done, and propose solutions. They need to get to the root cause of that and propose solutions. Parliament has not done that, and we love the president because he controls both the national and the National Assembly and the Senate to talk to the majority leaders there to move a motion and have Parliament constitute a special committee, if not at least an ad hoc committee, to look into these issues to the root and propose solutions. Further, we are asking the President to stop persecuting the media and civil society. The National Alternative Alliance proposes urgent establishment of a national dialogue framework that is multi-sectoral, civic-led, and time-bound, not a tokenistic attempt like what they did last year. We need something that will actually involve the faith-based people, civil society, but it should be civic-led and not led from the political side or government. This dialogue should address intergenerational divides, economic hardships, corruption, job creation, youth inclusion, among other pressing national challenges. Mr. President, your administration has consistently failed to fulfill the aspirations of Kenyans. The people you have appointed to help deliver your vision are failing the nation. Recycling the same individuals into critical positions has yielded little progress and fueled public frustration. While you are passionate about the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, which you call the plan, the truth is that if it were truly working, Kenya would not be experiencing the current turmoil. We urge you to undertake a radical midterm review of the plan and other government policies anchored in genuine public participation to restore constitutional order, address issues of job creation, debt management, corruption, and social justice. One of the gravest stains on your administration is the record of extrajudicial killings, the abductions, and gross human rights abuses. No head of state should carry such a burden. To reduce public anger and restore trust in the security sector, we strongly urge you to relieve the Cabinet Secretary for Interior, Mr. Onesimus Kipchumba Murkomen. We also call on the President to fire the Director of National Intelligence and also the Inspector General of Police and his two deputies. The Director of Criminal Investigation, Mr. Amin, should also be shown the door. The reason why we are saying that Kenyans will not be willing to get into dialogue with the people they believe are killing them. Kenyans believe that the Inspector General, the Director National Intelligence Service, the DIGs and the IG, the people who are running that sector, and we also what the CS said the other day. So if the President wants the temperatures to go down, we will ask him to completely recalibrate his security sector. And we are bold enough to actually tell him, for people to say, the people he can send at home, the CS, the Director National Intelligence, the IG of Police, the DIGs, the two DIGs, already we have got a big problem with one of them, Mr. Lagat, and then the Director National Intelligence, because we've spoken about abductions. Every time their names keep popping up. So if the President wishes that Monday looks different, we ask him to move very fast. The President will have to choose either his friends or the nation. He will have to choose between being the President of the Republic of Kenya or the friend to the IG, to the DIG, to Amin and the other people. He will have to choose one of those things. He has to choose either to become the leader of this nation or to have his own friends, and therefore he will actually have chosen a side. We ask him to actually constitute a fresh, credible team urgently, so that then we are able to, he's able to uphold the rule of law and protect the rights of all Kenyans. Mr. President, your administration is marred in various corruption scandals. Yet there is little sign of political will to confront this scourge decisively. The result is widespread perception of a government lacking integrity and accountability. Kenyans do not want lectures. They demand concrete action. The scandals weighing down on your administration are many and include, it's important, we would love to actually state the scandal so that we are not told that there has not been any scandal around here. What we have not seen is that we have not seen action on them. Number one, we have got the KEMSA scandal. Twice, there's KEMSA 1 and KEMSA 2, where people were just passing by and they could get tenders. You remember the Global Fund, the next thing. We don't know how that story died. There's the 20,000 bags of contaminated sugar that was fed to people. Probably we ate that sugar and that is why we are very angry. As in, Kenyans were fed on contaminated sugar and no action has ever been taken. It died like any other. We are here to state over 20 scandals so that then we remind the President why Kenyans are angry, because the other day he said he does not understand why we are angry. The other bit of it is the 17 billion fuel shilling scandal. You remember there was a time when somebody claimed he had his own fuel. The lady who said that she had brought in the 17 billion shillings fuel, and then the state claimed it was its own. That particular scandal smells like either a money laundering attempt or something about it is not so clear. So that particular scandal, we've never gotten to the root cause and understood what it is. So if he's asking why Kenyans are angry, is because these issues come to the fore and no one deals with it. The so-called Elianto edible oil scandal, that has never been settled up to date. Further, we have got the privatization of state corporations without parliamentary approval. We still consider passing that law a scandal. And that is why you saw, for example, there are attempts to take over various public assets without parliamentary approval. Yet, that is unconstitutional. So, I'd love to go through the others very, very fast. The housing levy, as it is, from being a levy to a contribution to being returned to the people, the housing levy remains a scandal. That is a scandal. There is no other word for it. It is a scandal. Initially, we were told it will be returned to us. Then it became a levy. Then we were told it is a tax. What exactly is that? Kenyans are angry about that. We have the Adani Airports deal scandal. No action taken after Kenyans made all that noise and everything else. It was just stopped. And that is where it ended. We have got the Adani agency in Ketraco. That is still a scandal. It's not been taken care of. It's not been addressed. The housing, the fertilizer scandal scattered across, the fertilizer scandal. You remember the fertilizer scandal and people being sold stones and all the other things. Again, nothing has been done to that. Somehow, that has been cleaned out. And people saw sand and very funny things being sent to them. So that has not been taken care of. The Social Health Authority issue, the SHIF, are an ongoing scandal. There was no reason why we should have 103 billion or 104 billion shillings worth of a system. And they'll tell you it's private led, it's this and that. But we know too well, at the end of the day, it is the people that are funding it. A lot of the changes they were proposing to do to the national health insurance setting could be done without all of these things. Rebranding this thing to SHA, that adds no value. Simply, other than giving people tenders to do the rebranding and everything else, it adds no value. If you were to look at the 104 billion shillings, you will actually buy our military a whole squadron of new F-16s. We are using second liberation, or rather second generation F-5s. Those are second generation. Even our neighbors in the neighborhood are using, like Uganda, for example, they are using the Suhoi 30 MKI. Those are 4.5 generation. We are using Gen 2. Just to give an example to see how serious that is. Then the other bit of it is the higher education, the new funding model. As it were, the new funding model, by all means, it doesn't make sense. Why would twins of people born by the same parent, all of them end up in different bands? That is an issue that if the president has forgotten, it's important that we remind him that he needs to work out that. And then numerous smaller, I want to call them micro and small corruption scandals scattered everywhere. So other serious concerns include the never-ending state house renovations. So we are always renovating state house. That to us we think is a waste of resources, and it's a scandal on its own because we do not understand. Somehow it's never budgeted for, but there's always something around that. Like for example, just the other day we used 2 billion shillings. That was, I think, the second one. Now we've actually factored in about 890, I don't know whether it's million or billion, around the same. The issue of the African Union Commission, the AUC Commission, how we undertook that, the monies that went into that qualifies for a scandal. Because under what budgeting framework was that done? We do not know how that particular bit was done. The Auditor General the other day raised issues with that. Then we have got the Sudan and RSF scandal. We believe that endangers our citizens. That is a scandal. If the president is asking us, and if his friends are asking us, why are Kenyans angry? Why would the president endanger Kenyans outside there? Uh, Business people who are exporting things to Sudan can no longer do that. Uh, in the situation that is happening in Sudan, we could easily end up with problems. The other day, our weapons branded from our own country, from MOD, from Kenya, were being found there. So if the president still asks what we are angry about, it is these issues, and no one dealt with this. I'd love to actually remind you guys that even Parliament has not addressed that. When the Belling Cat and I think NTV ran that particular story, the parliamentary committees that are supposed to take care of that did not do anything. They didn't do anything. And you know how serious that is, because he has literally ruined our foreign policy and the standing of Kenya in the region. And when the government spokesperson spoke out, he simply name dropped, talked about UAE and other players. They did not address the issues of Kenyan branded weapons being found in Sudan. We've lived for a very long time without having this meddling. And the best place we can meddle in as Kenyans, and that is a civilian prerogative, has always been online, not deploying our military, not using our assets to simply meddle into other people's affairs. We are taking time on this just to list out there, because sometimes the people in Kenya Kwanza are acting like they don't know why Kenyans are angry. But our foreign policy is ruined courtesy of the choices this president has made and his administration. You remember, there's the issue of Haiti deployment. That is a scandal. Because initially we said the UN was going to fund that, but we are still budgeting for it as a country. As in, if that is not a scandal, I'd love to actually get. No one has ever told us if, for example, there was refunding of the previous monies we've actually put in. Even in this particular budget, we are still budgeting for it. Yet we were told some UN friends and some framework had been put in place to fund that particular process. So we would then ask, with all the problems we have, why would Kenya, in its state, be funding a peacekeeping mission or whatever mission they are calling in Haiti? That, for us, is a scandal. We have got our young men dying on the battlefield. No one is explaining that. Kenyans are not happy about that. Then there's a funny precedent. There's a practice of funding of the office of the president through other ministries to keep its books clean. So you look at how the books are actually made, is that you realize that monies are spread across other ministries, and then they fund statehouse activities. Somehow, office of the president looks clean, but you realize that a lot of the activities they are running are being funded through other ministries. That we also think of it as a scandal, because there should just be straight budgeting, so that then you don't have to hide money that is going to office of the president in a different ministry. You remember that how we deployed our military to Goma in DRC. It was a very scandalous affair. We did not run that particular deployment the way Kenya, that is the shortest deployment Kenya has actually been on. It was barely 11 months. We think that that too is an issue, and even the parliamentary committee that should be dealing with that has not done anything. Then there's the democide that is going. Democide is the killing of citizens by its own government. The government has been killing Gen Zs. If the president and Kenya Kwanza does not think that that is a scandal, we'd love to actually ask them what is a scandal. There is an ongoing democide, killing of Gen Zs and other Kenyans. And abductions is a scandal. Somehow we have normalized, we are rationalizing, and somehow we are explaining abductions and going around as if it doesn't matter. That too is a scandal, and it's causing a lot of the anger you see around here. Then the broader suppression of democratic order and space. There's too much. We wake up in the morning and we see things that we never, growing up, we didn't see. You switch off the media as if it's nothing. We feel that switching off the media is actually a dry run for 2027. If they start switching off the media today and they are not held to account, what stops them from switching off the media in 2027? But it could be easy for people to argue they can switch off mainstream and legacy media. But who told you that even the people in the new media will not be affected when they switch off the internet? Without internet, do you have anything to do? Further, we can still switch off the internet and switch off electricity. So we see a resurgence in suppressing the democratic order. And that is part and parcel on why people are getting angry. These issues, These unresolved issues continue to erode our public confidence in your administration, and we urge you to confront them with transparency, accountability, and swift justice for those who are responsible. Finally, a major driver of the ongoing demonstrations is the youth bulge. And it's important to remind everybody that if you check out the word youth bulge, it started showing up in our policy documents 15 years ago. The first time I encountered the word youth bulge was in 2010 when we were talking about the youth policy. So the youth bulge is not a phenomenon that has just suddenly happened to us. And if you look at the scenarios drawn in 2010, drawn in 2008, 2007, just after the post-election violence, they said that by mid-2020s, we will have a huge population of young people who will need jobs, who will need placement, and so much. It is in our policies. So when you see the uprising out there, it is because of policy failure. We did not plan properly. But if you check as far back as 2010, they said by 2025, we will be having demonstrations in the street about jobs and civil unrest. It is in our policies. 15 years ago, we were talking about this, but we didn't do anything about it. So the alarming levels of youth unemployment is also is actually a serious driver to whatever is happening at the moment. We propose that your administration urgently, at least, for the last 2 years, we have not recruited both the military and the police. But let us propose these things. If the president is pretending like he does not know what to do, instead of renovating statehouse continuously, instead of putting money and wasting it in places where we don't need it, we are telling the president, one of those issues to get people off the street, recruit 20,000 police officers. We've not recruited police for the last 2 years. We have got capacity to train 20 at a go. We have got facilities for that. So get off a lot of these young people and the energies in the street. At least 20,000 young people go to the police, 10,000 to the military, because we have got a very high attrition. Currently, we are deployed on so many fronts. We need replenishing and also creating jobs instead of wasting money on these other things. The other things we would love to actually tell the president to do is that the government should also conduct the National Youth Council elections very fast. You remember when Kibaki was facing a similar problem, and the Americans had come up with Yes Youth Can. The government had to go to the drawing board and allow the National Youth Council elections that they had refused to put into place since 2004. Why has it become so difficult for this government to conduct the National Youth Council elections? Because the last National Youth Council elections were done in 2012 November. Up to date, they have never conducted National Youth Council elections, and therefore the youth do not have legitimate leaders. And when they say they are leaderless, it's real. They have no leaders. They do not have a legitimate desk where they can actually stop and ask questions. So the government should resource the elections for the National Youth Council urgently, because I do not think that there are other important vote heads in the budget that are important than actually taking care of the national unrest that is happening at the moment. One way to deal with that is that the president has been running away from conducting National Youth Council elections. He should do that very quickly. We also want to ask the president to revive and properly fund youth-focused programs such as the Youth Enterprise Development Fund. When you talk about financial inclusion, they will always tell you about Hustler Fund. And Hustler Fund is just another freezer. Hustler Fund cannot fund your business. Hustler Fund cannot do what Youth Fund was doing. So we are asking to revive that Youth Fund. If it was working, why bring it down? There's so much you can actually do around that. So the Youth Enterprise Development Fund, what happened to Uwezo? Dead. No one talks about Uwezo Fund anymore. Then there is the 30%.